Okay, and I believe that we are live. Um, Yay and welcome. I'm just double checking the sound and the tech. This week has been a little bit tech glitchy for me. So I'm hoping that this is working. Yes, I can hear myself, which is good news. Because at the very least, I should be able to hear myself. Um, I am so glad that you're here. I'm so excited to be teaching this workshop today um, because, A, this is a topic that's really close to my heart. It's such a big part of my practice. It is, um, it's been such a powerful set of tools for me, what I'm going to be teaching in this workshop here today. And I think that it's often an overlooked dimension of meditation. So as you saw in the workshop description, what we're going to be talking about today is this concept of the four divine abodes and the way that we can use these for self-transformation, for self-healing, for really a lot of daily life practice. I think that often we get stuck in this idea that meditation is one thing, that it's only this mindfulness practice, but really, and and I'm going to go into this in the workshop more, but really it is, it can really be so much more than that. And so what we're going to be talking about today are the heart practices that we can use to transform our lives, um, as a kind of methodology for comprehensive self-care in any situation, in any moment, in a lot of different scenarios. For us to be on retreat all the time, or in a perfectly contained environment. And we can really be out in the real world, interacting with people we love, and still bring in and weave in these elements of heartfelt practice. So it's now 1 o'clock, and being the punctual person that I am, I'm going to get us started. Welcome to Meditation for Transformation. My name is Christy. I run a small online self-care empire over at christytending.com, where I offer practices for particularly aimed at people who want to change the world. So people who are healers and change makers and people who are looking to build a more compassionate world. And I think that this workshop today sort of dovetails really neatly with both of these elements, with both the self-care as well as with the change-making, kind of more activist dimension of my work. So we'll be getting to that a little bit later. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Really, I want to start with this. Meditation can awaken us, it can heal us, it can transform us, and it really is, in so many ways, a holistic practice. I think we've heard a lot of research at this point pointing to the benefits of meditation, both on a more esoteric, more intangible level in terms of human happiness, in terms of calm, in terms of the peace that it cultivates. But there's also been a lot of research on meditation as an antidote to anxiety, to depression, to all of these daily life sorts of stimuli that can really trigger our nervous system, can trigger our emotions, and can really do a lot of damage. So meditation awakens us. it transforms us, it heals us in a literal and figurative way. So for this workshop today, you're going to want a distraction-free space so that you can really focus on one thing at a time. And that's really the kind of first goal of meditation, is starting to focus on one thing at a time. You'll want a comfortable place to sit. If you are on the Making Meditation Kind workshop that I taught yesterday, we talked a lot about the therapeutics of sitting and how to set ourselves up for success. So make sure that you're comfortable. And then finally, please bring your curiosity, your courage, and ask me questions in the chat. If there's anything that isn't clear, I want to make sure that your questions are answered. And so we'll have a little bit of time for that at the end. If there is anything that you want more on that doesn't really make sense, let me know. So who the heck am I? My name, again, is Christy Tending. I'm a self-care mentor. I'm an activist. I'm a healer. And really my work in the world is helping people who want to change the world develop amazing self-care, as well as having an activist. Same way that I think about my self-care or my meditation or my yoga. So I believe in more compassion and less struggle, particularly when it comes to meditation and healing work. I know that some of this can feel really intimidating. And so really it's my goal for this to feel a little bit less intimidating and a little bit more tangible and something that we can use in our everyday lives. I've been a Dharma student, a student of Buddhism for 15 years now. And I've really discovered a lot of tools and practices that we can use to make our practice feel more loving, to help to transform our lives in a way that, again, is applicable to real life and aims at real transformation instead of sort of frustration and angst. So you're in the right place. If you're here to learn more about meditation, if you're here to get new perspectives on the way that meditation can be really a healing practice, you've come to the right place. And I'm so excited to be your guide. So before we dive in, I want you to set a clear intention for our time together. How do you want to show up? How do you want to be during this time? I ask this question at the beginning of each of my workshops because I think that often we get stuck in sort of goal-oriented or product-oriented attitudes towards our self-care practice, our healing work, our spiritual practice. And really, I want to encourage you to think about this as a process, as a practice. So at the beginning of each workshop, I ask you to set an intention. This is about the tone that you want to cultivate during our time together, how you want to show up. And really, this is to set the stage for you to be as present as possible during this time instead of sort of mentally rushing towards the end. So that's why I ask for folks to do this before we dive in. And now I want to ask you to close your eyes and notice your breath. Just becoming aware of the tone of the breath, the pattern of it, the flow of it as it comes and goes. Noticing any details that might come to you. And really just getting a sense of the quality of the breath, anything that's going on in the body, in the mind today. And noticing what you experienced. So everything I'm going to ask you to do today is going to all be experiential. and experimental. So the question always becomes not just what is the practice, but what does it feel like? So notice, what did you experience? What came up for you? And start to tune into that. That right there, the quality of the breath, whatever is coming up for you at the very beginning of this workshop, we're going to use this as a baseline. And this is, it's sort of like a resting heartbeat, but it's a way of getting in touch with what's going on with you and yourself and your heart on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment kind of basis. So today, what you're going to learn, we're going to dive deep into this Buddhist concept of the 4 heavenly abodes. We're going to talk about how to use them as self-healing practices, how to incorporate them into our meditation practice, and gaining these tools for cultivating the 4 heavenly abodes. And spoiler alert, we're going to be cultivating loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity through meditation. Those are the 4 heavenly abodes, the 4 divine abodes. And we're also going to talk about how meditation can really come into everyday real life and be a transformational force. So definitely stick around until the end. We're going to do live Q&A. Pop your questions into the chat. I'm also going to offer some really sweet, beautiful, exclusive bonuses just for folks who are on the workshop today. And then you'll also hear a little bit about my personal journey with loving kindness, how I use it to transform in times of grief, in times of pain, in times of struggle, how I use meditation as a transformational force in my own life. So, transformation through meditation. Again, thank you so much for being here. This is such a joy and such a treat for me. So, meditation, and so I want to back up. Transformation through meditation is not about clinging to outcomes or clinging to or attaching ourselves to change. It's not about aversion either, or moving away from what we don't want, things that are painful. It's not necessarily about that either. What I mean by transformation through meditation is really the act of coming home to your true nature, which is love and peace. And that's really what we're aiming for here, is to sort of scrub away all of the things that aren't serving us, that are serving as distraction, that are serving as disturbances to the mind, so that we can really see things clearly and be awake in the world in our full-hearted being. So that's really what I'm talking about here when I talk about transformation. It's not some sort of like chrysalis process where we're becoming totally different human beings overnight. It's really about kind of scrubbing ourselves down to our true nature through these heart trainings, through this meditation practice. So meditation lets us make really big shifts through really small practices. It allows us to experience really incredible perspective shifts just with a small amount of practice and with seemingly very simple tools. It gives us this training on the cushion when we're sitting in our meditation that we can then apply in our daily lives. So we practice doing this on the cushion, and then we practice doing it in our everyday, ordinary, have to go grocery shopping, have to pick the kids up, have to take out the cat litter kinds of lives. And really this happens, and the way I've experienced it most deeply is through the Brahma Vihara. So I've sort of teased this phrase now a few times, But the Brahmavihara are known as really the heart practices in Buddhism. And they're also known as the four heavenly abodes, the four divine abodes, the four abodes of the heart. And so it's a Pali phrase, which is the language in which Buddhist canon texts were written. And in Pali, Brahma means divine or highest. And Vihara is home or abode. It's not really a physical residence, but it's a state of being. And together, they are the divine abodes. So the four Brahmavihara are Karuna, Upekkha, Mudita, Metta, and these translate as Karuna is compassion, Upekkha is equanimity, Mudita is sympathetic, or I sometimes call it empathetic joy, and Metta is loving kindness. So I teach a whole course on metta and loving kindness, but I've recently included in that course a full set of materials on the Brahmavihara as well, because I think it's really an under-discussed, kind of underutilized set of practices. So I love loving kindness, and it's certainly the most popularly practiced form of meditation when it comes to this kind of work. But there are other practices too. There's this compassion, there's this equanimity, there's this sympathetic joy. And all four of them together, along with loving kindness, form this complete picture of the heart. And all of them really support loving kindness. So I decided to include a piece around all four of the Brahmavihara, in addition to a really deep dive in the course on metta and loving kindness, just because I think that they're understudied pieces of Buddhism, and I feel really drawn to this work. So the Brahmaviharas and these four kind of qualities of being, these four states of being, these heavenly abodes, they're the highest states, according to Buddhism, in which humans can abide, in which humans can find themselves and exist in their state of being. And so the Brahmaviharas, we can cultivate these actively during meditation. And today in the workshop, I'm going to teach you how to do that. But they may also naturally arise from our practice. And really, this is such a gift of Buddhism, is that we can cultivate these things actively, but they can also be natural outcomes, organic outcomes of practice itself. So, when we transform our state of being on the cushion, we can transform our state in daily life. And this is really what I've learned. It's one of my biggest takeaways from my 8-day, 7-night meditation retreat, where all I did was practice loving kindness the whole time, is that when I practice on my cushion, my practice doesn't end when I open my eyes and stand up. It can permeate through every area of my life, every aspect of my life. And this is really what I'm talking about when I talk about transformation through meditation, is what the residue is, what the repercussions are in our daily interactions, in our daily way of being, once the formal meditation practice is over. So I want to talk about the near misses, because oftentimes the Brahmavihara, there are these states: compassion, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, equanimity. But then we experience emotions that we might confuse for the four divine abodes, these four states. And in the original texts, they're referred to as the near enemies. One of my teachers refers to them as the near misses, which I think is a much more accurate and much more sweet way of referring to these. So compassion, we might mistake pity for compassion or compassion for pity. And so we might be aiming for compassion and end up in a state of pity. So being aware of that. With loving kindness, we might confuse clinging or possessiveness for loving kindness. Sympathetic joy, the near miss for that is going to be jealousy. And again, sort of a sense of craving. And then with equanimity, we might confuse indifference for equanimity. Equanimity is really the cultivation of being at peace with any outcome, recognizing that we're entitled to our labor, but not the fruits of our labor. And when we cultivate this, I think particularly in our culture, there is this near miss around confusing being at peace with any outcome with indifference to outcome. So we want to make sure to sort of steer clear of that bit of confusion. So the Brahmavihara as formal practice, as not just states in which we aim or point ourselves in the direction of abiding in at all times, but as a formal meditation practice. It's the practice of, or the cultivation of, one or more of the Brahmavihara, of these states, through mantra and concentration practice. So when I say mantra practice, I'm talking about the repetition of a set of phrases again and again. And concentration practice is bringing the full awareness to those phrases, to the here and now, and being present with that. So we're going to start with loving kindness practice. Because this is the most commonly practiced of the 4 Brahmavihara as far as formalized practice goes. But also because rather than talking about these abodes, I really want you to experience them. So we're going to start with loving kindness practice. And again, this is something that I go into much more deeply in the course, but it's a lovely taste. So again, this is also known as metta, metta or loving kindness. And so what is metta? Metta is this pure form of love. Without drama, without attachment. It's just a sincere desire to offer love without needing reciprocation, without attachment or jealousy or clinging, or craving or lusting. Again, it's one of the 4 sublime states, the Brahmavihara, along with compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And it's often the one that's sort of seen as the highest, which I think is why it's practiced most commonly. So metta practice is the practice of loving kindness meditation. It's a mantra meditation that relies on concentration, on concentrating on the repetition of these phrases. And we'll go into the phrases in just a moment. And really its ultimate according to Buddhism, its ultimate yield is universal love for all beings. So we cultivate metta for a handful of people in our practice, but they're really proxies for all beings everywhere. And ultimately, the goal is to be practicing loving kindness for all beings in every realm of existence. So elements of loving kindness practice, and this is really transferable across each of the Brahmavihara practices, but I'm breaking it down just for loving kindness right now. So elements are these mantras, the repetition of phrases of well-wishings, of blessings, and then again, this sense of the interpersonal, expanding circles of offering blessings. So we start with one person, and then we extend our blessings outward to an ever-expanding group of people who expand outward in our consciousness, eventually bringing all beings everywhere into our consciousness, into our awareness, and wishing them well. So these phrases, again, they're well wishes. And usually they start with may you or may I. They're prayer of sort and blessings of sorts. And so choose 2 to 4 phrases to begin, and we'll repeat them on a loop. Now, as a little bonus practice, you can also start to link them with your breath. So I usually, when I'm practicing, because I have such a consistent meditation practice, bringing my awareness to my breath, I find that repeating one phrase per breath is really helpful in helping me to keep track of the phrases. So you might use that as a little trick as well. So example phrases that you may want to use. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be free. May you live with ease. May you be filled with loving kindness. And I'm going to offer you example phrases for each of the others, but this is just to start here. So beings. We begin with ourselves. Then we move on to offering to a mentor or a benefactor, someone with whom we have an almost universally positive experience. It might not even be someone we know in real life. So you might choose a public figure for whom you have really abundantly positive feelings. I sometimes offer phrases for the category of the mentor or the benefactor to one of my cats, because I find it really easy to access loving kindness when I look at her as a being. And in so many ways, she is sort of a benefactor, a mentor. She's been a blessing in my life. So it can also be useful to choose a non-human being. Then we move on to a dear friend, someone with whom we have interpersonal history, with whom it might be a little bit more complicated, but for whom we have overwhelmingly positive feelings, or maybe like 80% positive feelings. Then we move on to a neutral person or a familiar stranger. This is someone we may have met once or twice, or we see in passing on a regular basis, but we don't really know their story. We don't know their life history. We don't have a lot of interpersonal history with them. But we see them as a person in the world. So this could be a barista. This could be an acquaintance. This could be your bus driver. Really, there's so many strangers with whom we come in contact. Then we move on to the difficult person. Now, with the difficult person, it's important to note, and I say this especially as somebody who's worked a lot with folks who have a lot of trauma, who has experienced trauma themselves. when you begin to work with the difficult person, don't pick your most triggering mortal enemy person. Pick someone who maybe mildly annoys you. Um, this could be again, a stranger, somebody you saw earlier today in your day who did something that irritated you. This could be an irritating celebrity, someone who causes you mild annoyance, but who isn't like out to ruin your life or hasn't caused you like grievous harm. Um, Eventually you might get there, but especially if you're just beginning, choose someone a little softer. And then eventually we extend it out to all beings. One caveat, because apparently this is a thing in the West, is that a lot of people have difficulty beginning with themselves. So if you happen to fall into this category, if you have a difficult time starting with yourself, start with somebody who has a little bit less charge. Start with your benefactor, start with a dear friend, start with someone for whom it's really easy to cultivate this sense of loving kindness. So we're going to practice, and we're going to practice just for ourselves for this time here together. But I've given you a sense of what this could look like in a longer flow of practice. But just for today, because we have a somewhat short workshop, I want to try to keep this to an hour. We're going to practice just for ourselves. So find your comfortable seat. Go ahead and close your eyes and choose your phrases. If you're just starting out, you might just start with 2 phrases or even 1 phrase. You could choose as many as 4, but try to keep them simple. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be free. May you live with ease. And you can begin by directing these phrases to yourself. You might, may I be happy? May I be safe? May I live with ease? Imagine yourself seated in front of you. You in front of your phrases rather than may I. Find phrases, though, that feel natural, and start to repeat these phrases again and again, directing them either toward yourself or toward another being for whom it's very easy to access these loving feelings. Notice what arises. If your mind starts to wander away from the phrases, gently bring it back to the here and now and begin the repetition of phrases again. You can always start over. You can always start anew. So if the mind goes elsewhere, into memory, thought, emotion, just bring it back here to the phrases. If offering some compassion or some loving kindness for that tender part of yourself. So if you feel yourself sort of struggling against this, offering some compassion, some presence, maybe a few deep breaths for that part of yourself that is struggling. And again, perhaps picturing yourself in your mind's eye as a small child or in a moment of joy. If you are offering this to yourself, it can be easier to really imagine yourself as though you were speaking to yourself as someone precious. If the mind starts to spin out a story about that, gently remind it of the practice at hand and invite it to come back here and now to the repetition of the phrases once again. And at the conclusion of your next full set of phrases, go ahead and open your eyes, take some deep breaths, and bow to yourself. And notice again, what was the experience of that like? The experience of receiving love in that particular way? Or even just well wishes. What did that feel like? How did that land in your body? Notice the effect of taking just a few moments of offering this to yourself. We were only doing this for about 5 minutes, but the effect can be really profound. And how might this result be possible with the cultivation of other states? What else, what other results might await? What other kinds of transformation could be there? So I'm going to offer some sample phrases now for the other Brahmavihara, the other divine abodes, so that you can practice on your own a little compassion practice, or a little mudita, sympathetic joy practice, or a little equanimity practice. So feel free to take screenshots of this. Feel free to take notes, as many as you like. The one thing that I ask is that if you're ever going to share this elsewhere, that you either credit me or you credit the people who I've credited. Because I try to do a good job of crediting my teachers by name when I can. Um, this is a set of phrases that was But she's a Dharma teacher So I think we're back. I apologize for the technical snafu. So sample practice for equanimity. This couldn't be more perfect. I've been having technical issues with my webinar software all week, so this equanimity practice couldn't be more appropriate. And really, what we're aiming for here is being at peace with whatever arises, knowing that things don't always go our way, and cultivating some good humor and some acceptance around that. So some sample phrases for equanimity would look like, I have my path, you have your path, and I care about you. May I accept things just as they are. May I be undisturbed by the comings and goings of events. May I be at peace with my broken webinar software. So, as you can see, it's really not about not caring. I sort of mentioned this earlier in the workshop, but it's not about indifference. It's not about the fact that you don't care about what's happening or what's going on. It is simply being at peace with what is, with cultivating acceptance for what is, and knowing that often things are out of our control. There's a story that one of my teachers, Sylvia Borstein, talks about a friend of hers who was diagnosed with a terminal illness. And she actually painted on her bedroom wall, this isn't what I wanted, but it's what I got. And that is really the heart of equanimity, is knowing that we don't always get what we want. And so many things are out of our control, even when we do try to micromanage them, but knowing that we can be at peace with whatever comes is a really powerful transformation that we can take ourselves through. So transformation in daily life. So not all of the transformation that I've talked about today is going to happen in formal practice on your meditation cushion. Some of it happens in our interactions, in our day-to-day lives, in those moments where we're not meditating. So through the Brahma Vihara, we can cultivate these attitudes on the cushion, and then we can learn how to cultivate them in daily life. So I've begun a practice where when I walk downstairs to eat breakfast in the morning, each step I take, I repeat a single phrase of loving kindness for myself. And my staircase is maybe 20 steps. So I get through my 4 phrases of loving kindness about 5 times by the time I've gotten downstairs for breakfast in the morning. And this is really a way for me to be present, to ground myself, to set that intention of loving kindness before my day even begins. So that's just one tiny example. But what this can look like in everyday life is a practice around gratitude, a practice around forgiveness, a practice around non-clinging or non-jealousy on an interpersonal level. If this is something that you're working with in your romantic life, or even in a friendship, cultivating this non-jealousy, this non-clinging, this sympathetic joy, this I'm happy that you're happy. It looks like cultivating generosity, which in Pali is called dana, non-attachment to outcome. So dedicated in the effort you put in, but being less attached to the outcome of it. Mutual aid and support, offering support and aid to those who need it out of compassion, out of this kindness, out of this sense of empathetic joy. And then finally, and this is something that I've been thinking a lot about recently, unsurprisingly, given the times in which we find ourselves, but this idea of social justice as a source of transformation and as something that is sourced from our practice of loving heart practices. So this is one of my favorite quotations of all time. It's from Dr. Cornel West, who says, "Justice is what love looks like in public." So when we take our meditation and our cultivation of love off of our cushions, what we do is we can use those same intentions, those same feelings of love in order to really push and cultivate justice in our culture, in our country, in our world. And ultimately, justice is what loving kindness looks like when we take it off the mat and we offer it to all beings. So if you are looking to cultivate as a daily practice, I do offer a loving kindness meditation course that now includes a module on the Brahma Vihara. It's called Hella Metta. You can find it at christytending.com/hellametta. And what it does is awakens your compassionate heart through meditation. It infuses your life with loving kindness so that you really can embody it in any moment. It fills your whole being with an understanding of how deserving we all are of love and how to actually create more of it. So what you get is the Hella Metta program. It's a comprehensive audio meditation course. So I give step-by-step instruction in both audio and written form. So if you're more of a visual learner, you can use the written cheat sheets. If you're more of an audio learner and you prefer the audio meditations, those are available to you. It includes 2 ebooks, over 20 audio practices, a practice journal, all sorts of goodies. For people who want to create more loving awareness in their everyday, in their daily lives. And for people who want that deep practice experience, but who can't necessarily afford to get away on a fancy extended retreat or vacation. So the course is a 10-day exploration of loving kindness that begins as soon as you join. You receive 2 audios each day to guide you step by step through to the end what is a very robust practice. And then the 2 ebooks take your practice deeper. There's this practice journal where you can track your experience. And you'll receive a free spot in my exclusive Hella Metta coaching call, which is coming up on February 9th. It's an hour-long supportive deep dive into loving kindness to answer all of your questions. You'll get individual support from me, next level advanced practices. So we'll probably do some of together. I'll lead you through some of the formal practice in other areas of the Brahma Vihara. And then you'll also get exclusive bonus workbooks, the call recording to keep forever, and other goodies that I'm sure I'll dream up. So you also get a whole bunch of bonuses, a playlist that's all about love and sweetness. You get the resource appendix with all of my favorite meditation resources. You get a bonus workbook and you get a bonus desktop wallpaper so that all areas of your life, audio and visual, are taken care of. And then I love to add more resources regularly. So more bonuses to come. So here's what some of my past students have to say. Emily says, I started Hello Meta when I was visiting a sick family member, and the course was helpful in helping me remember and actively practice loving feelings, making my visit a really positive and loving experience. I felt that the delight I took in this daily receiving was a self-care act in itself. Ashley says, the word that comes to mind when I think about Christy is sacred. Her vision for self-care is contagious. The way she holds space for you is precious, and spending time with her is undoubtedly transformation. So, workshop only bonuses. As I mentioned, gratitude really can dovetail beautifully with these meditation practices. So, it's no longer available, but if you through the workshop, through the workshop link, you also get a free download of my ebook, Setting Gratitude Free. Of course, you get the 60-minute coaching call with me on February 9th at noon about my teaching. I can't tell you how deeply grateful I am to have found Christy's work. Her voice is so warm, gentle, and real, like a good friend or sister who's unafraid to reach a person in the dark waters and guide them to shore. Christy has helped me to know and remember that I am worthy of my healing process and empowered me to begin to craft my particular water wings. So here again is everything you get. You get the course, the audio course with 20 audio practices, 2 ebooks on all aspects of practice, including the practice journal, the exclusive coaching call, a copy of Setting Gratitude Free, and then this is your last chance to get the course before the price goes up. So this bundle is valued at over $250. Your investment is $57. But again, please be aware that the price goes up to $97 on February 1st. I've added a lot of materials to Hello Meta in the year since I first released it. And this price is really a reflection of its current value, except not really, because I like to keep my prices pretty low. So if you've been on the fence about joining the course, I really invite you to jump on in before the price goes up. And you hit the big yellow button right below the screen. You'll pay via secure checkout page. The course begins immediately. So there's no waiting. You can just begin the course as soon as you want. And then it's paced out over the course of 10 days. But of course, the materials are yours to keep forever. So if you miss a day or anything like that, you have access to the materials forever. So you'll pay through secure checkout right here via Gumroad. And again, just to refresh all of the things that you get, more than 20 audio practices, 2 ebooks at the current price, which is only $57 before it goes up on February 1st. You get bonuses like workbooks, resource guides, wallpaper, playlist, of course, the workshop only coaching call, which is going to be 60 minutes long, and a copy of Setting Gratitude Free, so that you can also incorporate this gratitude practice into your meditation and your loving kindness practice. They pair really, really beautifully together. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Let me double check. Hello, hello. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, which meant that everything was super clear, which is great. Which means that we have just enough time to talk a little bit about how loving kindness has really transformed my life and my relationships. So one of the ways I told a different story yesterday. I told a little bit of a different story yesterday on yesterday's workshop. So I want to tell a different story today so that those of you who are here for both don't get repeats. But really, loving kindness has changed my relationship with my own body. If you've read through my bio, if you've been on workshops before, you may have heard me mention that my body has pretty severe scoliosis. So I have an ongoing chronic pain condition that is unusual for someone of my age. I've had chronic pain now for more than 20 years, which is a long time for someone who's only in her early 30s. Um, so really, though, loving kindness has transformed my ability to be lovingly present with my body, even when I am experiencing really intense experiences with the scoliosis. Um, it's taught me that I can be present and worthy of love, and I can be um, really compassionate and in my body, even if my body feels like it's letting me down. So really for me, the repetition of these phrases, this loving kindness practice, this ongoing ability to be in a moment with an attitude of loving acceptance has really it's changed my whole relationship to myself and my body because I'm far less critical. I recognize that even when my body is not doing um, exactly what I want it to, or it's not able to do exactly what I want it to, I'm able to be um, lovingly present with it instead of self-critical. So that's really how it's changed my life. It's changed my whole perspective and transformed my whole perspective on myself, on my body, on my healing process, and on my sense of self-worth and self-deserving. So I again really invite you to join me inside Hella Metta. All you have to do is hit that big yellow button right below the screen, and you'll be all signed up. So if you have any questions, please hit reply to the replay email that I send out. I'll be thrilled to answer them. And then I will see you and your beautiful faces inside the course. And I can't wait to connect with you live on February 9th for our free coaching call. Okay. Thank you all so much for being here. It's been a real treat to talk about these things and to nerd out with you. So all of my thanks. And I will see you all very soon. Yeah, take good care.